I spent my wedding night hiding under the bed. Not because I was playing some romantic game, not because my husband and I were being adventurous, but because what I heard in those first 30 seconds made me realize the man I had just married was about to destroy my entire life. And if he had found me there, I truly believe he would have killed me. My name is Denise Carter. I am 34 years old. 8 hours before I crawled under that bed, I walked down the aisle in a $2,800 dress, tears of joy streaming down my face, believing that God had finally sent me my blessing. But God was not sending me a blessing. He was sending me a test. And what I discovered that night was not just about another woman. It was not just about lies. It was about 3 other wives, $2.7 million in stolen money, and a carefully crafted plan to take everything I had spent my entire life building. But here is what Darnell did not know about me. I am an accountant. I find lies hidden in numbers for a living. I track down fraud. I uncover deception in spreadsheets and bank statements. And I was about to audit his entire existence. If you have ever trusted someone who turned out to be a monster, if you have ever had your heart shattered by a liar, if you have ever looked back and wondered how you missed the signs, then this story is for you. Hit that subscribe button right now, like this video, and comment below telling me what city you are watching from. I want to know how far this message reaches, because what I am about to tell you could save your life, your money, and your sanity. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you how I ended up hiding under that bed on what was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. I was not looking for love when I met Darnell Mitchell. After Jalen's father walked out on us when my baby was only 2 years old, I had closed that door. I locked it tight. I threw away the key and told myself I did not need a man to complete me. I was 32 years old, raising my son alone, building my career as a certified public accountant, and I was doing just fine. More than fine. I was proud of what I had accomplished on my own. I had bought my own townhouse in Baltimore with money I saved for 7 years. I had $45,000 in a savings account for Jalen's college fund. I had built my credit score up to 780 points through years of discipline and sacrifice. I paid my bills on time. I invested in my retirement. I did everything right. I did not need a man. I had me, and for a long time that was enough. Then one Sunday morning at New Hope Baptist Church, Pastor Whitfield stood at the pulpit with a warm smile and introduced someone new to our congregation. "Church family," he said, "please welcome Brother Darnell Mitchell. He has recently moved to Baltimore after losing his wife to cancer 2 years ago. He is looking for a new church home and a fresh start. Let us show him the love and warmth that New Hope is known for." The congregation applauded. People turned around to welcome him. And that is when our eyes met for the first time. He was sitting 3 pews ahead of me on the left side. When he turned around during the greeting time, he looked at me. Not through me, not past me. At me. Like I was the only person in that sanctuary. "Peace be with you, sister," he said as he extended his hand. His voice was warm and smooth. His smile was genuine and kind. His handshake lingered just a second longer than necessary, but not in a way that felt inappropriate. It felt intentional, meaningful. "And also with you," I replied. I felt something I had not felt in years. A flutter in my chest, a spark of electricity running through my fingertips. It caught me completely off guard. My mother was sitting next to me. She squeezed my hand gently and leaned over to whisper in my ear. "A man who seems too perfect is usually hiding something," she said quietly. I smiled and shook my head. Mama always was suspicious of everyone. I told myself she was just being overprotective. I told myself not to let her paranoia ruin a nice moment. I should have listened to my mother. After service, Darnell found his way over to me in the fellowship hall. He was holding a cup of coffee and wearing a smile that could melt butter. "I hope this is not too forward," he said, "but I noticed you during the service. You have a beautiful spirit. I could see it from across the room." "Thank you," I said, suddenly feeling shy. "That is very kind of you to say. I am Darnell. Darnell Mitchell. Denise Carter." We talked for almost an hour that day. He told me about losing his wife to breast cancer. He described how he held her hand in hospice until she took her last breath. He talked about the 2 years of grief that followed the depression, the loneliness, and finally the decision to start fresh in a new city. He asked about me too. He listened when I talked about Jalen, about being a single mother, about my career. He did not zone out or look around the room. He maintained eye contact. He asked follow-up questions. He remembered details. By the time we said goodbye, I felt like I had known him for years. Our first date was 2 weeks later. He took me and Jalen to the National Aquarium. He insisted that my son come along because he said he wanted to know all of me, not just the woman, but the mother, too. Jalen was hesitant at first. He had never seen his mama with a man before, but Darnell was patient. He bought Jalen a stuffed dolphin from the gift shop. He lifted him up to see the sharks better. He answered all of Jalen's endless questions about the fish without a hint of annoyance. By the end of that day, Jalen was holding Darnell's hand as we walked through the parking lot. "I like Mr. Darnell," Mama Jalen said that night as I tucked him into bed. "Can he come back?" My heart melted. The second date, Darnell cooked dinner for me at his apartment. Baked salmon, roasted vegetables, rice pilaf. He said he used to cook for his late wife every Sunday night and that he missed having someone to cook for. The third date, he showed up at my office with a bouquet of roses. My coworkers swooned. One of them pulled me aside and said, "Girl, you better hold on to that one." Every date was perfect. Every conversation was meaningful. Every gesture was thoughtful. He opened doors for me. He pulled out my chair at restaurants. He called when he said he would call. He texted good morning every single day without fail. He remembered that I mentioned wanting to try a new restaurant, and 2 weeks later he surprised me with reservations. He came to Jalen's school play. He showed up at Jalen's Little League games. He helped Jalen with his homework when I was working late. He won over my mother with his charm. He quoted scripture at Sunday dinners. He helped her carry groceries. He fixed a leak in her bathroom sink without being asked. He never pressured me physically. He said he wanted to do things right this time. He said he respected me too much to rush anything. He said he was willing to wait until I was ready, even if that meant waiting until marriage. 6 months after our first conversation in that church fellowship hall, Darnell got down on one knee in front of the entire congregation right after Sunday service. "Denise Michelle Carter," he said with tears in his eyes, "you and Jalen have given me a reason to believe in love again. You have healed wounds I thought would never close. You have shown me that God still has blessings waiting for those who are patient enough to receive them. Will you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" The ring was beautiful. 2 carats princess cut sparkling under the sanctuary lights. I said yes with tears streaming down my face. The church erupted in applause. My mother was crying. My best friend Tanya was crying. Even Pastor Whitfield wiped his eyes and said it was one of the most beautiful proposals he had ever witnessed. It was the happiest moment of my life. At least that is what I thought at the time. Looking back now, I can see all the signs I missed. They were there the whole time, scattered like breadcrumbs leading to a truth I did not want to find. But when you are in love, when you want something to be real so badly, your mind becomes an expert at making excuses. The first warning sign was his sister Monique. Darnell introduced her to me about a month after we started dating. He said she was his only sibling, that they had been close their entire lives, and that she had been his rock through his wife's illness and death. Monique was beautiful, tall, elegant, dressed in designer clothes that I could not afford. She smiled at me when we met, but there was something about that smile. It never quite reached her eyes. It was like looking at a mask that was ever so slightly crooked. "So you are the one who finally captured my brother's heart," she said, tilting her head to study me. "After everything he went through with losing his first wife, I am just very protective of him. I hope you understand." Of course I said. I would expect nothing less from a loving sister. She was at every family gathering after that, every holiday dinner, every Sunday after church. She helped plan our wedding, insisted on being involved in every decision. But sometimes I would catch her looking at me with an expression I could not read. It was like she was studying me, evaluating me, measuring me for something. My best friend Tanya noticed it too. "That woman does not like you," Tanya whispered to me at my bridal shower. "Something about her energy is off. The way she looks at you when she thinks you are not watching. It is not sisterly concern. It is something else." But I dismissed it. I told Tanya that Monique was just overprotective. I said she was worried about her brother getting hurt again after losing his first wife. I said she would warm up to me once she saw how much I loved Darnell. I should have trusted Tanya's instincts. The second warning sign was about money. As an accountant, I should have seen through it immediately. Numbers are my language. Deception in finances is what I am trained to detect. But love made me blind in ways I never thought possible. When we discussed finances before the wedding, Darnell was vague, uncomfortably vague. "What exactly do you do for work again?" I asked one evening over dinner. "Real estate investing," he said smoothly. "I buy properties, renovate them, and flip them for profit. Sometimes I hold on to them as rentals. It is not a traditional 9 to 5, but it gives me flexibility. And how is business going right now?" He sighed and stirred his drink. "The market has been slow lately. A lot of my capital is tied up in properties that are not ready to sell yet. Once they flip, I will have a significant return. But right now, things are a little tight." I nodded, accepting his explanation without question. A few weeks before the wedding, he brought up the topic of bank accounts. "Baby," he said, taking my hand across the dinner table, "once we are married, we should combine our finances. I want us to be true partners in every way. What is mine is yours, and what is yours is mine." I hesitated. Something in my gut told me to wait. "I have Jalen's college fund in my savings account," I said carefully. $45,000. I worked really hard to save that money." "Of course," he said, squeezing my hand. "And once we are married, that will be our son's college fund. I want to contribute to it too. I want to add to it, help it grow. We are going to be a family, Denise. Let me be a part of providing for that family." I agreed in principle, but asked if we could wait until after the honeymoon to make any major financial decisions. I told him I wanted to enjoy our wedding first before dealing with paperwork. He smiled and said, "Of course, baby. Whatever makes you comfortable. We have the rest of our lives." But for just a fraction of a second, I saw something flash across his face. It was quick, barely noticeable. Was it frustration? Disappointment? Anger? It disappeared so fast that I convinced myself I had imagined it. The third warning sign came from the most honest person in my life, my 8-year-old son. About a month before the wedding, I was tucking Jalen into bed. He had been quiet all day, which was unusual for him. Normally he talked nonstop about school, about his friends, about video games, but that day he was withdrawn. "What is wrong, baby?" I asked, sitting on the edge of his bed. "You have been so quiet." He looked at me with those big brown eyes, the same eyes his worthless father gave him before walking out. "Mama," he said softly, "do you have to marry Mr. Darnell?" The question surprised me. I thought Jalen liked Darnell. They seemed to get along so well. "What do you mean, baby? Do you not like him?" Jalen was quiet for a long moment, like he was trying to find the right words. "He smiles too much, Mama. Even when nothing is funny, he is smiling. And when you leave the room, his face changes. It becomes different, like he is wearing a mask, and he takes it off when you are not looking." A chill ran down my spine, but I pushed it away. "Sweetie," I said, kissing his forehead, "Mr. Darnell just wants you to like him. He is nervous. He is trying really hard because he wants to be part of our family." Jalen did not look convinced, but he nodded and said, "Okay, Mama." That night, I could not sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about what Jalen had said. "He smiles too much. His face changes when you leave the room. Children see things adults miss. They do not have the filters we develop over time, the politeness that makes us ignore our instincts. They see people as they are not as they pretend to be." An 8-year-old boy had noticed something that I, a grown woman with a decade of professional experience analyzing deception, had completely overlooked. I should have trusted my son, but I did not. I told myself he was just adjusting to change. I told myself he was nervous about having a stepfather. I told myself that children often resist new people in their lives, even good people. I made excuses for the truth because the lies were more comfortable, and so I walked toward my wedding day with my eyes wide open and yet completely blind. June 15th. The day I had been planning for 6 months. The day I had been dreaming about since I was a little girl playing wedding with my dolls. I woke up at 5 in the morning, too excited to sleep. The sun was just starting to rise, painting my bedroom window in shades of orange and pink. It felt like even the sky was celebrating with me. I took a long shower, letting the hot water wash away any lingering stress from the wedding planning. I did my skincare routine, taking my time, enjoying the ritual. I ate a light breakfast of fruit and yogurt because I knew it would be hours before the reception dinner. At 9 o'clock, my sister circle arrived. Tanya came first with champagne and orange juice for mimosas. My cousin Patricia brought a speaker and a playlist of our favorite songs from college. My mother arrived with a garment bag containing her own wedding veil, the one she had worn when she married my father 40 years ago. Something old Mama said, her eyes glistening with tears. We set up in my bedroom, transforming it into a bridal suite, music playing, mimosas flowing, laughter filling every corner of the room. The hairstylist arrived at 10. I had decided to wear my locks up, swept into an elegant style, with small white flowers woven throughout. It took 2 hours to get it perfect, but when I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked like a queen. The makeup artist came next. I wanted natural beauty, nothing too dramatic, just enough to enhance what God gave me. When she finished, I had a soft glow that made my skin look like honey in sunlight. And then it was time for the dress. $2,800. I had saved for 8 months to afford it. Off-the-shoulder neckline, mermaid silhouette that hugged my curves before flaring out at the knees, delicate lace overlay with tiny crystals that caught the light. When I stepped into that dress and Tanya zipped up the back, I felt like the most beautiful woman in the world. My mother started crying the moment she saw me. "Baby girl," she whispered, "you look just like an angel." Tanya handed me something, borrowed her diamond bracelet that her husband had given her for their 10th anniversary. Patricia pinned something blue inside my dress, a small ribbon she had embroidered with our grandmother's initials. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. I was ready. The ceremony was at New Hope Baptist Church at 4 in the afternoon. 200 guests filled the pews, everyone dressed in their finest. White flowers decorated the end of every row. Candles flickered on the altar. Soft piano music floated through the sanctuary. I stood in the vestibule, clutching my bouquet of white roses and calla lilies, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. There was no father to walk me down the aisle. He had died when I was 12, leaving my mother to raise me alone. So I had decided to walk by myself. I did not need a man to give me away. I was giving myself. The doors opened, the music changed to the wedding march, and I took my first step toward my future. Every eye in that church was on me, but I only saw one person. Darnell stood at the altar, in a perfectly tailored gray suit, tears streaming down his face. He looked at me like I was the most precious thing he had ever seen. His hands were clasped in front of him, trembling slightly with emotion. As I walked closer, I could hear him whisper, "You are so beautiful," over and over again. When I reached the altar, he took my hands in his. His palms were warm and steady, now grounding me. "You take my breath away," he said softly enough that only I could hear. Pastor Whitfield began the ceremony with words about love and commitment, about the sacred bond of marriage, about two people becoming one flesh in the eyes of God. When it was time for the vows, Darnell went first. "Denise," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "I spent 2 years in darkness after I lost my first wife. I thought I would never love again. I thought that chapter of my life was closed forever. But then God led me to New Hope Baptist Church, and God led me to you. You have brought light back into my world. You have given me a reason to wake up every morning. You have shown me that second chances are real. I promise to love you, cherish you, protect you, and honor you for the rest of my days. I promise to be the father Jalen deserves and the husband you have always dreamed of. With this ring, I give you my heart, my soul, and everything I am." He slid the ring onto my finger. It sparkled under the sanctuary lights. Then it was my turn. "Darnell," I said, surprised that my voice was steady. "I never expected to find you. I had built a wall around my heart so high I thought no one would ever climb it. But you did not try to climb it. You did not try to break it down. You simply stood outside and showed me that it was safe to open the door. You accepted me as I am, a single mother with a complicated past and a cautious heart. You love my son like your own. You treat me like I am precious. You make me feel seen and valued and cherished. Today I am choosing to spend the rest of my life with you. I am choosing to trust again, to love again, to believe in forever again. With this ring, I give you all of me." I slid the ring onto his finger. Pastor Whitfield smiled at both of us. "By the power vested in me by the state of Maryland and by Almighty God, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Darnell, you may kiss your bride." When his lips met mine, the church erupted in applause. People were on their feet, cheering, crying, celebrating. I was married. Finally. After years of doing everything alone, I had a partner. After years of being strong because I had no other choice, I had someone to lean on. I was so happy I thought my heart would burst. The reception was at the Marriott Grand Ballroom downtown. $15,000 for the venue, the food, the decorations, everything. Darnell had insisted on a lavish celebration, saying he wanted everyone to know how much he loved me. Looking back, I realize now that I paid for most of it. Darnell had contributed $3,000. I covered the remaining $12,000 from my savings. Another red flag I chose to ignore. But that night, I was not thinking about money. I was thinking about how beautiful everything looked. The white linen tablecloths, the centerpieces of roses and candles, the 5-tier wedding cake decorated with fresh flowers. We danced our first dance to a Luther Vandross song. Darnell held me close, his hand on the small of my back, swaying gently as the music wrapped around us. "I am the luckiest man in the world," he whispered in my ear. I believed him. The reception went on for hours, toasts and speeches. My mother crying as she talked about watching her baby girl grow up. Tanya making everyone laugh with stories from our college days. Even Pastor Whitfield came to the microphone to bless our union. But as the night went on, I noticed something strange. Darnell and Monique kept disappearing. Every 30 minutes or so, one or both of them would slip away. They said it was to take phone calls. "Real estate business never sleeps," Darnell explained, with a casual wave of his hand. At one point during the reception, I went looking for Darnell because it was time to cut the cake. I found him and Monique in a corner of the hotel lobby, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. When they saw me approaching, they immediately stepped apart. Both of them plastered on smiles that appeared just a moment too late. "There is my beautiful bride," Darnell said, sweeping me into his arms. "I was just telling Monique how lucky I am." The luckiest, Monique agreed. Her voice was smooth, but her eyes were cold. Something was wrong. I felt it in my bones, that instinct that women have, that voice inside that whispers, "Pay attention." But it was my wedding day, the happiest day of my life. I refused to let paranoia ruin it. So I pushed down that voice. I silenced my instincts. I smiled and let Darnell lead me back to the ballroom to cut the cake. That was my final mistake. The reception ended around 11 o'clock. Guests said their goodbyes with hugs and well wishes. My mother kissed my cheek and told me she was proud of me. Tanya squeezed my hand and whispered, "Have fun tonight," with a mischievous grin. Jalen had gone home with my mother hours earlier. He was spending the week with her while Darnell and I had our honeymoon. I had kissed him goodbye at the reception, promising to bring him back a souvenir from Jamaica. "Be good for Grandma," I told him. "I will, Mama. Have fun with Mr. Darnell." I hugged him tight, not knowing that by the time I saw him again, my entire world would be different. We had booked the honeymoon suite at the Marriott, $500 a night. Darnell had insisted on the best, and I had agreed because I wanted our first night as husband and wife to be special. The suite was beautiful, a living room area with plush couches and a fireplace, a bedroom with a king-size bed covered in rose petals, champagne chilling in an ice bucket, a view of the Baltimore Harbor twinkling through the floor-to-ceiling windows. When we walked in, Darnell swept me up into his arms like I weighed nothing. "Welcome to our new life, Mrs. Mitchell," he said, carrying me across the threshold. I laughed and wrapped my arms around his neck. Everything felt perfect. Everything felt right. He set me down gently on the bed, careful not to crush my dress. He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, my lips. "I am going to make you so happy, Denise," he murmured against my skin. "You have no idea." "I need to freshen up," I said, grabbing my overnight bag from the corner. "Give me 20 minutes. Take all the time you need, beautiful. I will be right here." I went into the bathroom with my bag and closed the door. Inside was the white lace lingerie I had bought specifically for this night. Delicate, elegant, romantic. I wanted to look perfect for my new husband. I started changing carefully, hanging up my wedding dress on the door hook. I fixed my makeup, I touched up my hair, I spritzed a little perfume on my neck and wrists, and that is when I heard it. Through the bathroom door, I heard Darnell's phone ring. 1 ring, 2 rings. Then he answered. His voice was different immediately, lower, harder. The warm, loving tone he used with me was completely gone, replaced by something cold and businesslike. "I told you not to call tonight," he said sharply. Yes, everything went according to plan. She does not suspect anything." My hand froze on the doorknob. She does not suspect anything. I pressed my ear against the bathroom door, holding my breath. Darnell continued talking. "I will have access to her accounts by next week. She wanted to wait until after the honeymoon, but I can convince her. The house is worth at least $280,000. We can take out a second mortgage before she even realizes what is happening." My blood turned to ice. My heart was pounding so hard I was certain he could hear it through the door. His voice dropped even lower, but I caught every word. "Tell the others I will send their cut once I liquidate her savings. $45,000 should be easy to move. She is stupid in love. They always are." He laughed. A cold, cruel laugh that I had never heard from him before. It was not the laugh of the man who had stood at the altar crying as I walked toward him. It was the laugh of a predator who had cornered his prey. "Once I get what I need, I will file for divorce. Claim she was unstable. Claim the marriage broke down because of her. By the time she figures out what happened, I will be in Phoenix with the next one." Phoenix. The next one. There were others. I was not special. I was not his blessing from God. I was just the latest in a line of victims. My hands were shaking so violently I had to press them against the wall to steady myself. I heard him hang up the phone. His footsteps approached the bathroom door. "Baby, you almost ready in there?" I squeezed my eyes shut. I had to respond. If I stayed silent, he would know something was wrong. "Just a few more minutes," I called out. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, high and tight, but I hoped he would mistake it for nerves. "All right. Hey, I'm going to step out for a smoke. Monique wants to go over some last-minute business stuff. Do not wait up if you get tired." A smoke. At midnight. On his wedding night, with his sister. I heard the hotel room door open and close. The second I was sure he was gone, I came out of the bathroom. My mind was racing. I needed to get out of here. I needed to call someone. I needed to think. My phone was in my purse in the living room area. I started walking toward it, my bare feet silent on the plush carpet. I had taken 3 steps when I heard voices in the hallway. Darnell and Monique. Coming back already. Panic seized my chest. They were coming inside. If they found me out here, standing in the middle of the room with my phone, they would know something was wrong. They would see the terror on my face. They would know I had heard. And then what? What would they do to silence me? I had maybe 5 seconds to decide. Without thinking, I dropped to my knees and rolled under the king-size bed. I pulled my body as far back as possible, pressing myself against the floor, surrounded by rose petals that had fallen from the comforter. The door opened. I clamped my hand over my mouth to keep from breathing too loudly. My heart was slamming against my ribs. Every muscle in my body was screaming at me to run, but I could not move. I was trapped. From my position under the bed, I could see their feet. Darnell's polished dress shoes, Monique's designer heels. They were not being quiet. They did not think anyone could hear. And what they said next destroyed everything I thought I knew about my life. Monique spoke first. Her voice was familiar, but different now, stripped of the fake sweetness she used around me. "How long until you can get on her accounts?" Darnell sighed. "She wanted to wait until after the honeymoon, but I will push her this week. She is already half in love with me. She will do anything I say. You said that about the one in Atlanta." And she almost caught on. "Atlanta." "What one in Atlanta?" Darnell laughed dismissively. Crystal was different. She was suspicious from the start, kept asking questions. "This one, Denise, she is trusting, she is desperate. Single mother wants a daddy for her kid." She handed me her whole life on a silver platter. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I did not make a sound. I bit down on my hands so hard I tasted blood. Monique walked closer to where Darnell was standing. I could see their feet nearly touching now. "And the house?" she asked. "It is in her name," Darnell said. "But I will convince her to add me to the deed. Tell her it is about building a future together, about protecting Jalen if something happens to her. She will eat that up. Once I am on the deed, we take out a second mortgage, cash out the equity, and we are gone before she can blink." "What about the other wives?" Monique asked. "Sandra in Phoenix keeps calling, and LaToya in Chicago is asking questions about where her money went." "Other wives?" "Other wives. My husband was already married. To multiple women. At the same time." The room started spinning. I pressed my forehead against the cold floor, trying not to pass out. "I will deal with them," Darnell said calmly, like he was discussing a minor inconvenience. "Sandra is too scared to go to the police. She knows what happens to women who cause problems for me. And LaToya, once I drain Denise's accounts, I will send her enough to keep her quiet for a while longer. Keep her quiet. Women who cause problems. This was not just financial fraud. This was something darker, something dangerous." Monique's voice changed. It became softer, more intimate. "How much can we get from this one? Between the house, the savings, and a few credit cards in her name, probably $350,000 if we play it right. Maybe more." Monique laughed, a satisfied, greedy sound. "You always did know how to pick them, baby." Baby. She had called him baby. And then I saw Monique's feet step toward Darnell's. I heard the unmistakable sound of kissing. She was not his sister. She had never been his sister. She was his partner. In crime. In bed. In everything. "Let us celebrate," Monique whispered. "Your new wife will not mind. She is probably asleep in the bathroom waiting for her big wedding night." They both laughed. A cruel mocking sound that echoed in my ears. I heard them move toward the bedroom, toward the bed, toward where I was hiding. They fell onto the mattress above me. The bed frame creaked. The comforter shifted, dropping rose petals onto the floor, inches from my face. My husband and his partner, his real partner, were about to consummate something on my wedding night, 3 feet above my head, while I lay on the floor in my wedding dress, surrounded by rose petals that now felt like ashes. I could hear them, every sound, every whisper, every movement. I squeezed my eyes shut and let the tears fall silently. This was not grief. This was not heartbreak. This was rage. Pure, white-hot, burning rage. The kind of rage that does not make you cry. The kind that makes you think. They were distracted now, completely occupied. This was my chance. Slowly, silently, inch by inch, I rolled out from under the bed on the opposite side. I kept my body low, my movements smooth. My purse was on the chair by the window. I grabbed it without making a sound. My shoes were by the door. I picked them up and carried them in my hand. The door was 10 feet away. It might as well have been a mile. I crossed that distance without breathing. My hand closed around the door handle. Click. For one horrifying second, I was sure they heard, but the sounds from the bed continued without pause. I slipped into the hallway and let the door close softly behind me. Then I ran. I ran down that hotel corridor in my wedding dress, barefoot mascara streaming down my face, my shoes clutched in one hand and my purse in the other. I ran like my life depended on it, because it did. I made it to the elevator and jabbed the button over and over until the doors opened. Inside alone at last, I collapsed against the wall and let out the sob I had been holding in. But I did not have time for a breakdown. Not yet. I pulled out my phone and called Tanya. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice sleepy and confused. "Denise, girl, it is midnight. Are you not supposed to be celebrating with your new husband right now? I need you to come get me. Now. It is an emergency." Something in my voice cut through her confusion instantly. "Where are you, Marriott lobby? Hurry. Please, Tanya. Please, I am on my way. Do not move." I hung up and made one more call. To my mother. She answered immediately, her voice alert despite the hour. Mothers always sense when something is wrong. "Baby." "What is it?" "What happened, Mama? I need you to lock all the doors. Do not let anyone in, not even Darnell. Especially not Darnell. Do not let him anywhere near Jalen. Do you understand?" Her voice was sharp now, fully awake. "Denise, you are scaring me. What is going on? I will explain everything. But right now, I need to know my son is safe. I will protect him with my life. You know that. I know, Mama. I know." I ended the call and walked to the lobby on shaking legs. The concierge looked up as I approached. His eyes widened at the sight of me, a bride in full wedding dress at midnight mascara, ruined clearly in distress. "Ma'am, are you all right? Do you need me to call someone?" "No," I said. "My friend is coming." I sat down on one of the plush lobby chairs and waited. My wedding dress pooled around me like a puddle of broken dreams. 20 minutes later, Tanya burst through the lobby doors. She took one look at me, and her face crumpled. "Oh, honey," she whispered, pulling me into her arms. What did he do? Everything I said into her shoulder. He was going to take everything. She did not ask more questions. She just helped me up and led me out to her car. As we drove away from the Marriott, I looked back at the building one last time. Somewhere up there in the honeymoon suite, I had paid for my husband, was in bed with another woman, planning to steal my money, my home, my future. He thought he had won. He thought I was just another victim, another stupid woman blinded by love. But he did not know what I knew now, and he did not know who I really was. I am an accountant. I find fraud for a living. I uncover lies hidden in spreadsheets and bank statements. Darnell Mitchell, or whatever his real name was, had picked the wrong woman. He wanted to audit my life. Well, I was about to audit his. Every lie, every scheme, every crime. I was going to find it all, and I was going to make him pay. The war had just begun. Tanya drove in silence for the first few minutes. She kept glancing at me in the passenger seat, still wearing my wedding dress, still shaking, still trying to process what had just happened. Finally, she spoke. "We are not going to your house. We are going to mine. You need to be somewhere safe while you tell me what happened." I nodded. I could not go home anyway. Darnell had keys to my house. He knew where I lived. He knew where I slept. He knew everything about me because I had handed it all to him on a silver platter, just like he said. When we got to Tanya's apartment, she sat me down on her couch and wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. She made me a cup of tea that I could not drink because my hands were shaking too badly to hold it. Then she sat across from me and said the words I had been dreading. "Tell me everything." So I did. I told her about the phone call I overheard through the bathroom door. I told her about the plan to drain my accounts and take out a mortgage on my house. I told her about hiding under the bed. I told her about the other wives in Phoenix and Chicago and Atlanta. I told her about Monique not being his sister at all. I told her about what they did on my wedding night while I lay on the floor 3 feet below them. By the time I finished, Tanya's face had gone through every emotion imaginable. Shock, disbelief, horror, and finally the same rage I was feeling. That lying, no-good snake in the grass piece of garbage, she said through clenched teeth. I knew something was off about him. I knew it. I should have said something stronger. I should have pushed harder. "This is not your fault," I said. "It is not anyone's fault except his. He fooled everyone. He fooled the whole church. He fooled Pastor Whitfield. He fooled my mother. He fooled me." Tanya grabbed her phone. "We need reinforcements. I am calling Pat and Sharon, right now." It was almost 2 in the morning, but Patricia answered on the second ring. She worked night shifts at the police department sometimes, so she was used to late calls. "Tanya, what is wrong?" "Emergency sister circle meeting at my apartment. Now. Denise needs us. I am on my way." Sharon took a little longer to answer, but when she heard the urgency in Tanya's voice, she did not hesitate. "Give me 20 minutes. While we waited, I called my mother again. She answered immediately, still awake, still worried. "Baby, tell me what is happening. I have been praying since you called. Jalen is asleep. All the doors are locked, but I need to know what is going on." "Mama, I cannot explain everything right now, but Darnell is not who he said he was. He is a con artist. He has other wives. He was planning to steal everything I have." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "I knew it," my mother said quietly. "I knew something was wrong with that man. Too smooth, too perfect, too good to be true. Baby, I am so sorry. I should have said something." "You did say something, Mama. I just did not listen. What are you going to do? I am going to fight. I am going to find out who he really is. And I am going to make sure he never does this to another woman again. That is my girl. You call me if you need anything. Anything at all. I will be here. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby. Now go handle your business. Patricia arrived first, still in the casual clothes she wore when she was off duty. Her face was tight with concern as she hugged me. I work in the police records department, she said. Whatever you need, I can help you find it. Background checks, criminal history warrants. If this man has a record, I will find it. Sharon arrived next, her attorney brain already working. She was dressed in sweatpants and a Howard University sweatshirt, but her eyes were sharp and focused. Do not go back to that hotel, she said before she even sat down. Do not confront him. Do not let him know you know anything. We need to build a case before we make any moves. A case, I asked. Sharon sat down across from me and leaned forward. Denise listened to me carefully. What this man is doing is not just immoral, it is criminal. Bigamy is a felony. Marriage fraud is a felony. Identity theft is a felony. If he has done this across multiple states, we are talking about federal crimes. Wire fraud. Racketeering potentially. She paused to let that sink in. But we need evidence. We need proof. Right now, all we have is what you overheard. That is powerful, but it is not enough. We need documentation, bank records, marriage certificates, criminal history, testimony from the other women he has victimized. How do we get all that I asked? Sharon looked at Patricia. Can you run him through your systems? Patricia nodded. First thing tomorrow morning. I will need his full name, date of birth, social security number if you have it. I shook my head. I do not have his social security number. He was always vague about that stuff. Said he would handle the paperwork for combining our finances after the honeymoon. Of course he did, Tanya muttered, because he did not want you looking too closely at his real identity. Sharon continued, Denise here is what I need you to do. Can you go back? Can you pretend you do not know? Just for a few days. The thought made my stomach turn. Go back to him. Pretend to be the loving wife. Let him touch me again. Why, I whispered. Because right now, he thinks he has won. He thinks you are completely oblivious. He thinks you are sleeping in that hotel bathroom waiting for your wedding night to begin. That is our advantage. If you run, if you confront him, he will know something is wrong. He will destroy evidence. He will disappear. He will do this to someone else in another city, under another name, and you will never see justice. But if you play along, if you let him think he is still in control, if you pretend to be the naive, trusting wife he believes you are, then we can catch him. We can document everything. We can build an airtight case, and we can put him in prison where he belongs. I closed my eyes and thought about the other women. Sandra in Phoenix, LaToya in Chicago, Crystal in Atlanta. How many others were there? How many lives had he destroyed? How many women had lost everything because of this man? And if I did not stop him, how many more would there be? I opened my eyes and looked at Sharon. What do I need to do? She smiled grimly. First, we need to find out who he really is. Then we need to contact his other victims. Then we need to get the FBI involved, because this is clearly a multi-state operation. And throughout all of that, you need to be the perfect, unsuspecting wife. Can you do that, Denise? Can you look that man in the face and smile while we build the case that will send him to prison? I thought about Jalen, about my mother, about the $45,000 I had saved for my son's future, about my house that I had worked so hard to buy, about my credit score that I had built from nothing. I thought about the woman I had been 6 hours ago walking down the aisle with tears of joy, believing I had finally found my blessing. And I thought about the woman I was now, harder, colder, angrier. Yes, I said, I can do that. Good. Tanya looked around at our circle. Then let us get to work. We have a con artist to catch. We talked until the sun came up, planning our strategy, dividing responsibilities, preparing for the battle ahead. Patricia would run background checks and search for criminal records. Sharon would handle the legal aspects and reach out to law enforcement. Tanya would be my emotional support, the one I could call when the pretending became too much. And me, I would go back to my husband. I would smile and kiss him and play the role of the trusting wife, all while building the case that would destroy him. At 6 a.m, my phone rang. It was Darnell. Baby, where are you? I woke up and you were gone. I have been worried sick." His voice was full of concern, full of love, full of lies. I took a deep breath and channeled the best performance of my life. "I am so sorry, sweetheart. I got sick last night. Must have been something at the reception. I did not want to ruin our wedding night by being ill, so I went to stay with Tanya. I should have left a note. I am so sorry." There was a pause. I could almost hear him calculating, trying to decide if he believed me. "Are you feeling better now?" "A little. I think I just need to rest today. Can we postpone leaving for Jamaica until tomorrow?" "Of course, baby. Your health is what matters most. I will check out of the hotel and come take care of you." "No." I said it too quickly. "I mean, you do not have to do that. I am probably contagious. I do not want to get you sick, too. Let me rest at Tanya's today, and I will meet you at home tonight." Another pause. Longer this time. "Okay," he said finally. "If that is what you need." "I love you, Denise." The words felt like poison in my ears. "I love you too," I said. I hung up and looked at my sister circle. It has begun. Patricia called me at 7 in the morning the next day. She had been at the police station since her shift started at 6, running every search she could think of. "Girl," she said, her voice tight with controlled anger, "you need to sit down for this. What I found is going to blow your mind." I am sitting. "Darnell Mitchell does not exist." "What do you mean he does not exist?" "The Social Security number on his marriage license application? It belongs to a man named Darnell Mitchell who died in 2008. Car accident in North Carolina. Your husband stole a dead man's identity." My head was spinning. I had married a ghost, a fiction, a complete fabrication. "Then who is he?" I whispered. "His real name is Derek Williams. Born in Charlotte, North Carolina in 1986. He has a criminal record longer than my arm, fraud charges in 3 states, forgery, theft by deception. There was even an arrest for assault, but the charges were dropped when the witness refused to testify." I felt sick. The man I had married, the man I had let into my home around my son, was a violent criminal. Patricia continued, "It gets worse. According to the records I found, Derek Williams is currently married to 3 other women. 3 I had heard him mention other wives, but hearing the confirmation still felt like a punch to the gut. Wife number 1 is Sandra Williams, married in Phoenix, Arizona in 2019. The marriage was never dissolved. She is still legally his wife. Wife number 2 is LaToya Mitchell, married in Chicago, Illinois in 2021. Also never dissolved. Also still legally his wife. Wife number 3 is Crystal Davis, married in Atlanta, Georgia in 2023. Same situation. Still married, and now you. Wife number 4, Denise Carter, married in Baltimore, Maryland yesterday. 4 wives. He had 4 wives at the same time, and none of them knew about each other until it was too late. How much did he take from them, I asked, even though I was not sure I wanted to know. Patricia sighed heavily. Sandra lost approximately $180,000. He drained her retirement account. Her savings even took out credit cards in her name. She is still paying off the debt. LaToya lost even more, $320,000. He convinced her to refinance her house, then disappeared with the cash. She filed for bankruptcy last year. Crystal caught on faster than the others. She only lost about $50,000 before she realized something was wrong and kicked him out, but the damage was still done. I did the math in my head, $450,000 from 3 women, and now he was coming for my $45,000 in savings, my house worth $280,000, and whatever he could rack up on credit cards in my name. This was not just fraud. This was a systematic operation designed to destroy women financially and then disappear. "What about Monique?" I asked. Patricia's voice hardened. "Monique Williams is his real sister, born same parents 1 year apart. She has been arrested twice as an accomplice to his schemes, but the charges were dropped both times. No witnesses willing to testify, so they worked together. The loving sister act is just part of the con." "Exactly." She scouts the victims, helps him establish credibility, and probably handles a lot of the financial side of things. They are a team, have been for at least 8 years, based on the records. I sat in silence for a long moment, processing everything Patricia had told me. The man I had married was not just a liar, he was a professional predator. A career criminal who had spent nearly a decade perfecting the art of destroying women's lives. And I was supposed to go home tonight and pretend I did not know any of this. "There is one more thing," Patricia said quietly. "I found something in the notes from one of the fraud investigations in Atlanta. What one of the detectives wrote that Derek Williams should be considered potentially dangerous. Sandra, the first wife, told investigators that he threatened to hurt her if she went to the police. She said he told her that women who cause problems for him tend to regret it." A chill ran down my spine. This was not just about money. This man was willing to use violence to protect his operation. "We need to be very careful," Patricia continued. "We need to get the FBI involved. This is too big for local police, and honestly, it is too dangerous for us to handle alone." "I agree. Can Sharon make that happen?" "She is already working on it. She has a contact at the FBI field office here in Baltimore, an agent who specializes in fraud cases. She is setting up a meeting for tomorrow." "Good. What do I do in the meantime?" "Go home, be the wife, and document everything. Every text message, every phone call, every conversation. We need to build a record of his lies, so when this goes to court, there is no way he can talk his way out of it." After I hung up with Patricia, I sat alone in Tanya's apartment for a long time. I thought about Sandra living in Phoenix, still paying off the debt her fake husband had left her with. I thought about LaToya, filing for bankruptcy, losing everything she had worked for. I thought about Crystal, who had trusted again and been betrayed again. These women were not stupid. They were not gullible. They were just like me. They wanted love. They wanted partnership. They wanted someone to share their lives with. And Derek Williams had used that desire against them. He had weaponized their hope. Well, he had picked the wrong woman this time. I was not going to file for bankruptcy. I was not going to disappear quietly. I was not going to let him threaten me into silence. I was going to take him down. That afternoon, Sharon arranged a conference call with Sandra and LaToya. Crystal was harder to reach, but she would join us later. Hearing their voices, hearing their stories made everything real in a way that police records could not. Sandra spoke first. Her voice was tired, worn down by years of carrying the weight of what had been done to her. "He showed up at my church in Phoenix," she said, "told me he was a real estate investor who had just lost his wife. He seemed so sincere, so broken. I wanted to help him heal." She paused to collect herself. By the time I realized what was happening, my entire 401k was gone. My savings were gone. He had taken out credit cards in my name and maxed them all out. I went from having a comfortable retirement ahead of me to being 62 years old and starting over from nothing. "Why did you not go to the police?" I asked gently. "Because he threatened me. He told me that if I talked, he would come back. He said women who cause problems for him tend to have accidents, and I believed him. I had seen the look in his eyes when he was angry. That man is capable of anything." LaToya's story was similar. Different city, same playbook. "He married me in a courthouse ceremony in Chicago," she said. "Told me he wanted to keep it intimate, just us. I thought it was romantic. Looking back, I realize he did not want there to be any witnesses who might remember him." She took a shaky breath. 6 months after the wedding, I discovered he had taken out 3 credit cards in my name. He had run up $80,000 in debt. He had transferred my entire savings to an account I did not even know existed. And then he vanished. Packed a bag one morning while I was at work and was just gone. "Did you try to find him?" I hired a private investigator. By the time he tracked Derek down, he was already in Atlanta, already working on Crystal. But what could I do? I had no money. I could not afford a lawyer. The police said it was a civil matter. I was trapped. She started crying. "I almost lost my house. I had to move back in with my mother at 40 years old. I am still climbing out of that hole. And the worst part is the shame. Feeling stupid for trusting him. Feeling like everyone is judging me for being naive." "You are not stupid," I said firmly, "and you are not naive. He is a professional con artist. He has been doing this for almost a decade. He knows exactly how to manipulate people. None of this is your fault." Sandra spoke up again. "She is right. That is what I had to learn too. We were not weak. We were targeted by a predator who is very good at what he does." "Well," I said, "he is not good enough, because this time he picked a woman who fights back. and we are going to make sure he never does this to anyone else again." There was silence on the line. Then Sandra spoke, her voice stronger than before. "What do you need from us? Your testimony, your documentation, anything you have that proves what he did. And when this goes to trial, I need you to be willing to stand up in court and tell your stories." Latoya did not hesitate. "I will do it. I have been waiting years for a chance to face him." "So will I," Sandra said. "I am tired of being afraid. I am tired of hiding. Let us end this." We spent the next hour going over details, dates, amounts, methods. I took notes on everything. By the time we hung up, I had a clear picture of how Derek Williams operated. He always targeted women at churches, religious settings where people are trusting and community-minded. He always claimed to be a widower. The sympathy angle made women want to take care of him. He always moved slowly, taking months to build trust before making any financial moves. He always used the same pattern: get added to accounts, take out loans in the wife's name, drain everything, and disappear. And he always had Monique there to back up his story and watch for signs that the wife was catching on. It was a well-oiled machine, and I was about to throw a wrench in it. That evening I went home. Derek was waiting for me, flowers in hand, concerned look on his face. "Baby," he said, wrapping me in his arms. "I was so worried about you. Are you feeling better?" I forced myself to hug him back, to lean into his embrace, to pretend that his touch did not make my skin crawl. "Much better," I said sweetly. "I think I am ready for that honeymoon now." He smiled, that charming, perfect smile that I now knew was a mask. "How about we leave tomorrow morning? I already rescheduled our flights." "That sounds perfect." He kissed my forehead. "I missed you last night," he said. "Our wedding night was supposed to be special. We have our whole lives for special nights," I replied. Inside, I was screaming, but outside, I was the picture of a loving wife. The performance had begun. And this time, I was the one running the con. We did not go to Jamaica. I told Derek that I was still not feeling well enough to fly, that the thought of being sick in a foreign country scared me, that I wanted to wait a few more days until I was fully recovered. He was disappointed, but he hid it well. The concerned husband act never slipped. "Of course, baby, your health is more important than any trip. We can go next week, or next month. We have our whole lives, our whole lives. If he had his way, our whole lives would be about 6 months, just long enough for him to drain everything I had and disappear." But I smiled and thanked him, and let him think he was still in control. Meanwhile, Sharon had arranged a meeting with the FBI. Agent Marcus Turner was a serious man in his late 40s with graying temples and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He had been tracking Derek Williams for 2 years. He had files on all 3 previous wives. He had been building a case, but he never had enough evidence to make an arrest, until now. "Mrs. Carter," he said, leaning forward in his chair at the FBI field office, "what you are offering us is exactly what we need. An active operation in progress. A chance to catch him in the act." "I want him in prison," I said. "Not just for what he was planning to do to me, but for what he did to Sandra, Latoya, and Crystal. Those women deserve justice, and they will get it if you are willing to help us. What do I need to do?" Agent Turner explained the plan. They wanted me to continue playing the role of the trusting wife. They wanted me to give Derek exactly what he was asking for, access to my accounts. But instead of actually adding him to my real accounts, we would set up a trap. Dummy accounts with the FBI monitoring every transaction. The moment Derek tried to access the money, they would have him on camera committing federal bank fraud. It was risky. If Derek suspected anything, the whole operation would fall apart. And based on what Sandra had told us, he could become dangerous if he felt cornered. But it was our best chance to catch him. "I am in," I said without hesitation. Agent Turner nodded. "We will have agents stationed outside your home at all times. If anything goes wrong, if you feel threatened in any way, we will be there in seconds. And Monique. We will arrest her at the same time. She is just as culpable as her brother, possibly more so since she handles a lot of the financial logistics. Good. I want her to pay too." Over the next few days, I played my role perfectly. I cooked Derek's favorite meals. I laughed at his jokes. I let him hold me at night, forcing myself not to tense up when his arms wrapped around me. And I documented everything. Every text message he sent I screenshotted and forwarded to a secure email address Sharon had set up. Every phone call he made, I noted the time and tried to listen to what he was saying. Every time he left the house, I searched through his things looking for evidence. I found plenty. Hidden in his suitcase was a folder full of documents, fake identification cards in different names, social security cards that did not belong to him, bank account information for accounts I had never heard of. I photographed everything and put it back exactly where I found it. On his laptop, which he thought was password protected, but which I easily guessed because he used the same password for everything I found emails between him and Monique discussing their operation. One email stood out. "The Baltimore one is almost ready," he had written. "She trusts me completely. Once I am on her accounts, we move fast. 2 weeks maximum, then we disappear." Monique had responded, "What about the kid?" Derek's reply made my blood boil. "The kid is not my problem. Once I have her money, she can explain to her son why Daddy left, just like his real father did." He knew. He knew that Jalen's father had abandoned us, and he was planning to do the exact same thing after taking everything we had. I forwarded that email to Agent Turner along with all the others. On day 4, I made my move. "Baby," I said at breakfast, putting on my sweetest smile, "I have been thinking about what you said, about combining our finances." Derek looked up from his coffee, trying to hide his excitement. "Oh yeah, yes. You are my husband now. What is mine is yours. I want us to be true partners." He reached across the table and took my hand. "That means so much to me, Denise. You have no idea." "Oh, I had an idea. I had a very clear idea. I was thinking we could go to the bank tomorrow. I will add you to my savings account. And maybe we can talk about the house too, about putting your name on the deed." His eyes lit up. "That is exactly what I was hoping for. Building a future together, planning for our family, like Jalen was his son, like he actually cared about anyone but himself." "I will call the bank today and set up an appointment," I said. "Perfect. Let me know what time, and I will make sure my schedule is clear." Of course he would make sure his schedule was clear. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the payoff after 2 years of lying and manipulating. That night I called Agent Turner to confirm everything was in place. "The bank manager is one of ours," he said. "She is a former agent who retired and went into banking. She has agreed to help with the operation. When Derek comes in tomorrow, she will pretend to process the paperwork to add him to your accounts. She will ask for his identification. She will make copies of everything. And when he tries to access the account information, we will have him on camera committing fraud with a fake identity. What about the actual accounts? Your real accounts are protected. We have already put a freeze on them under your name only. Even if he somehow got access to the account numbers, he would not be able to move any money." "Good. Are you ready for tomorrow, Mrs. Carter?" I thought about everything Derek Williams had done, the women he had destroyed, the lives he had ruined, the trust he had betrayed. And I thought about Jalen, my beautiful 8-year-old son, who had seen through Derek's mask from the very beginning. "He smiles too much, Mama. His face changes when you leave the room." "Yes," I said into the phone. "I am ready. Then get some sleep. Tomorrow is a big day." I hung up and lay in bed next to the man who had pretended to love me, the man who had stood at an altar and made vows he never intended to keep, the man who was planning to steal everything I had and leave my son without a home. He was sleeping peacefully, probably dreaming about the money he was going to take. I did not sleep at all. I was too busy thinking about the look that was going to be on his face when he realized the game was over, when he understood that the woman he thought was stupid and desperate was actually the one who had outsmarted him. Jalen was right. Derek's face did change when he thought no one was watching. Tomorrow I was going to make sure the whole world saw his real face. The morning of the takedown, I woke up at 5 a.m. Derek was still asleep, snoring softly, completely oblivious to what was about to happen. I got out of bed quietly and went to the bathroom to get ready. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The woman staring back at me was not the naive bride who had walked down the aisle a week ago. She was harder, colder, ready for battle. I put on my nicest outfit, a professional navy blue dress with a matching jacket. I did my hair carefully, pulling my locks back into an elegant style. I applied my makeup with precision. If I was going to watch my fake husband get arrested, I was going to look good doing it. Derek woke up around 7. He seemed excited, energetic. Of course he was. He thought today was the day he finally got access to my money. "Good morning, beautiful," he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind as I finished my makeup. "You look amazing." "I want to make a good impression at the bank," I said, smiling at him through the mirror. "This is an important day for us." "It certainly is." He got ready quickly, putting on one of his expensive suits, the ones I now knew had been purchased with money stolen from other women. He checked his reflection multiple times, making sure every hair was in place. The predator was getting ready to strike. He just did not know he was walking into a trap. We arrived at First National Bank at exactly 10 o'clock. The parking lot was normal, nothing suspicious. But I knew that somewhere nearby FBI agents were watching, waiting. Derek held my hand as we walked through the front doors. He was playing the loving husband to perfection. The bank manager, a professional-looking woman in her 50s, greeted us at the door. Her name was Mrs. Patterson, and according to Agent Turner, she had spent 20 years in the FBI before retiring to the private sector. "Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell," she said warmly. "Welcome. Please come to my office so we can discuss your accounts." Derek smiled broadly. "Actually, it is Mr. and Mrs. Washington." My wife kept her maiden name for professional purposes. Mrs. Patterson did not miss a beat. "Of course. My apologies. Right this way." She led us to a private office in the back of the bank. Everything looked normal. A desk, 2 chairs for us, a computer, family photos on the wall, but I noticed the camera in the corner of the ceiling, and I noticed the way Mrs. Patterson positioned Derek so he was facing it directly. "Now," she said, settling behind her desk. "Mrs. Washington, I understand you want to add your husband to your accounts." "Yes," I said sweetly. "We just got married, and we want to combine our finances. Share everything." "How romantic," Mrs. Patterson said. "I will just need some identification from both of you." I handed over my real driver's license. Derek handed over his fake one, the one that said Darnell Mitchell, the one with a dead man's social security number. Mrs. Patterson looked at his ID for a long moment. "Mr. Mitchell," she said slowly, "can you spell your social security number for me?" Derek rattled it off without hesitation. He had done this many times before. He was confident, relaxed. Mrs. Patterson typed something into her computer. Her face remained neutral, but I knew what she was seeing. The flag that the FBI had placed on that stolen social security number. "Everything seems to be in order," she said. "Let me just pull up the account information." She typed for another moment. Then she looked up at Derek with a pleasant smile. "Mr. Mitchell, while my colleague prepares the paperwork, would you mind signing a few preliminary documents?" "Of course." She slid a stack of papers across the desk. Derek picked up a pen and began signing without reading them carefully. He was too eager, too confident. He thought he had already won. That was when the door opened. Agent Marcus Turner walked in, followed by 4 other FBI agents. They were wearing tactical vests with FBI printed in bright yellow letters. Derek's pen stopped mid-signature. His face went pale. Derek Williams, Agent Turner said in a calm, authoritative voice, "You are under arrest." Derek's head snapped toward me. His eyes were wide with shock and confusion. And then slowly I saw understanding dawn. I saw him realize that he had been played, that the woman he thought was stupid and trusting had been the one setting the trap all along. "Denise." His voice cracked. "What is happening?" I stood up slowly and stepped away from him. 2 agents moved forward to grab his arms. "My name is Mrs. Carter," I said coldly. "That marriage was fraudulent, and I was never legally your wife." "You cannot do this," Derek sputtered. "You do not have anything on me." Agent Turner almost smiled. "Derek Williams, also known as Darnell Mitchell, also known as David Johnson, also known as several other aliases, you are under arrest for bigamy, marriage fraud, identity theft, wire fraud, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Derek tried to pull away from the agents, but they were ready for him. In seconds, his hands were cuffed behind his back. "I want a lawyer," he shouted. "This is entrapment. You cannot prove anything." Agent Turner held up a folder. "We have 4 wives who will testify against you. We have bank records showing $2.7 million in stolen funds. We have emails between you and your sister planning your schemes. We have video of you right now attempting to commit bank fraud using a dead man's identity." He leaned in close to Derek. "You have been running this con for almost a decade. You thought you were smarter than everyone else. You thought you would never get caught. You were wrong." They started pulling Derek toward the door. He twisted around to look at me one last time. "This is not over," he said. His voice was low and dangerous. "You are going to regret this." I walked up to him, close enough to look directly into his eyes, the eyes that had seemed so warm and loving just a week ago, the eyes that I now saw were empty and cold. "You know what your mistake was, Derek." I did not wait for him to answer. "You thought I was stupid. You thought I was desperate. You thought I was just another victim who would never fight back. But I am an accountant. I find lies for a living. I track down fraud. I uncover deception hidden in numbers and documents. And you are the biggest lie I have ever uncovered." I stepped back and watched as they dragged him out of the bank in handcuffs. A small crowd had gathered in the lobby. Some people were recording on their phones. I did not care. Let them see. Let the world see what happens when a predator picks the wrong prey. Mrs. Patterson appeared at my side. "They are getting his sister now," she said quietly. "She was at the hotel packing. She must have sensed something was wrong when he did not answer his phone this morning. Good. I want her to face justice too. She will. They both will." I walked out of the bank into the bright morning sunshine. The air felt different now, cleaner, lighter. My phone buzzed with a text from Tanya. "Please tell me it worked." I typed back, "It worked. They arrested him. It is over." Her response was immediate. "Get over here right now. We need to celebrate." I smiled, the first real smile in what felt like forever. I walked to my car, the one I had bought with my own money, and drove away from the bank where my fake marriage had finally died. I was not Mrs. Mitchell. I was not Mrs. Washington. I was not any man's wife. I was Denise Carter, single mother, certified public accountant, survivor. And I was just getting started. 3 months later, I sat in the front row of the federal courthouse in downtown Baltimore. I was wearing a simple black dress, no jewelry, except for small pearl earrings that had belonged to my grandmother. My hair was pulled back neatly. I looked professional, calm, ready. But inside my heart was pounding. This was the day I had been waiting for, the day Derek Williams would finally face justice for everything he had done. Beside me sat my sister Circle. Tanya on my left, holding my hand, Patricia on my right, her police background making her comfortable in courtrooms. Sharon was at the prosecution table, serving as a consultant to the federal attorneys handling the case. Behind me sat Sandra Latoya and Crystal, the other wives, the other survivors. We had become close over the past 3 months, bonded by our shared trauma and our shared determination to see this through. My mother was there too, sitting in the row behind us with Jalen. I had debated whether to bring my son, but he had insisted. "I want to see the bad man get in trouble, Mama," he had said. "I want to know he cannot hurt you anymore." So I let him come. Because he deserved to see that the justice system could work, that bad people could be held accountable, that his mother was strong enough to fight back. The courtroom doors opened, and Derek Williams was led in by 2 federal marshals. He looked different than he had on our wedding day. His expensive suit was gone, replaced by an orange prison jumpsuit. His perfectly styled hair was now unkempt. His confident smile had been replaced by a hollow, defeated expression. He had been denied bail. Too much of a flight risk, the judge had said. So he had spent the last 3 months in a federal detention center waiting for this trial. When he saw me sitting in the front row, his eyes narrowed. For just a moment, I saw a flash of the rage he usually kept hidden. Then it disappeared, replaced by a mask of indifference. I did not look away. I held his gaze until he was forced to sit down at the defense table. Monique was brought in next. She looked worse than her brother. The designer clothes and perfect makeup were long gone. She had been crying, her eyes red and puffy. Good. Let her cry. She had helped destroy the lives of at least 4 women. She deserved every tear. The judge entered, and everyone rose. The Honorable Patricia Morrison was a stern-looking woman in her 60s with a reputation for being tough but fair. She had handled complex fraud cases before. She knew exactly what she was dealing with. The trial began with opening statements. The federal prosecutor, a sharp woman named Angela Washington, laid out the case methodically. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, she began over the course of this trial, you will hear evidence of a systematic criminal enterprise designed to prey on vulnerable women. You will hear from 4 victims who were targeted, manipulated, and robbed of their life savings by the defendants. She pointed at Derek and Monique. Derek Williams and Monique Williams operated a sophisticated fraud scheme for nearly a decade. They targeted single women at churches across the country. They used fake identities, fabricated stories of loss and tragedy, and exploited their victims' desire for love and companionship. The total amount stolen exceeds $2.7 million. 4 women lost their retirement savings, their homes, their financial security, and the defendants did not care. To them, these women were nothing but targets, nothing but dollar signs. She paused to let her words sink in. By the end of this trial, you will have no doubt about the guilt of both defendants, and we ask that you hold them accountable for the lives they destroyed. Derek's defense attorney tried his best. He argued that his client was a legitimate businessman who had simply had multiple failed marriages. He claimed the financial transactions were consensual and that the women were exaggerating their losses. But his arguments fell flat against the mountain of evidence the prosecution had assembled. Over the next 2 weeks, witness after witness took the stand. Sandra testified first. Her voice shook as she described meeting Derek at her church in Phoenix. She talked about falling in love, about trusting him completely, about discovering one morning that her entire retirement savings had vanished. I worked for 35 years, she said, tears streaming down her face. I saved every penny I could for my retirement, and he took it all in 6 months. I am 64 years old now, and I am still working because I cannot afford to retire. He stole my future. LaToya was next. She described the bankruptcy, the shame, the years of rebuilding. He did not just take my money, she said quietly. He took my ability to trust. He took my sense of security. Every relationship I have had since then, I am waiting for the other person to betray me. That is what he did to me. He broke something inside me that I am still trying to fix. Crystal testified about catching on to Derek's scheme before he could drain her completely. I got lucky, she said. I found some documents he had hidden, and I realized what was happening. But by the time I figured it out, he had already taken $50,000, and when I confronted him, he threatened me. He said that women who cause problems for him tend to have accidents. The jury's faces grew harder with each testimony. Then it was my turn. I walked to the witness stand with my head held high. I placed my hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth, and then I told my story. I started with meeting Derek at church. I talked about the courtship, the proposal, the wedding. I described how perfect everything had seemed, how I had truly believed I had found my blessing. And then I told them about the wedding night. I was in the bathroom of our honeymoon suite. I said, my voice steady. I was getting ready for my wedding night, and I heard him on the phone. I described every word of the conversation I had overheard, the plans to drain my accounts, the mention of other wives, the casual cruelty of calling me stupid and desperate. When he hung up, I heard voices in the hallway, him and his sister coming back. I had seconds to decide what to do. I paused, making eye contact with several jurors. I hid under the bed, in my wedding dress, on what was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. I hid under the bed and listened to my husband and his partner discuss how they were going to steal everything I had. The courtroom was completely silent. I described what I heard next, the discussion of the other wives, the revelation that Monique was not his sister, but his partner in every sense, the sounds of them together on the bed above me. And I described my escape. Running through the hotel in my wedding dress, calling my best friend, beginning the investigation that would eventually bring us here. When I finished, several jurors were wiping their eyes. Even the judge looked moved. The defense attorney tried to cross-examine me, tried to poke holes in my story. But I had documentation for everything: text messages, emails, bank records, the recordings I had made during the investigation. Every question he asked, I had an answer for. Every doubt he tried to raise, I had evidence to counter. By the time I stepped down from the witness stand, I knew we had won. The closing arguments took place on a Friday afternoon. The prosecutor summarized all the evidence, all the testimony, all the documentation. Derek Williams is a predator, she said. He preys on women who are looking for love. He uses their hope against them. He steals not just their money, but their ability to trust again. This is not a case of misunderstanding or bad judgment. This is a case of calculated, systematic fraud carried out over nearly a decade, and it must be punished to the fullest extent of the law. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they came back, the 4 women stood and read the verdict. On the charge of bigamy, we find the defendant, Derek Williams, guilty. On the charge of marriage fraud, we find the defendant, Derek Williams, guilty. On the charge of wire fraud, we find the defendant, Derek Williams, guilty. On the charge of identity theft, we find the defendant, Derek Williams, guilty. On the charge of conspiracy, we find the defendant, Derek Williams, guilty. Guilty on all counts, for both Derek and Monique. Sandra grabbed my hand and squeezed. LaToya was crying. Crystal just stared straight ahead, finally at peace. I felt something shift inside me. The weight I had been carrying for 3 months, the anger and fear and determination, it all started to release. It was over. It was really over. The sentencing happened 2 weeks later. The judge looked at Derek for a long moment before speaking. "Mr. Williams," she said, "I have presided over many fraud cases in my career, but I have rarely seen a defendant show such complete disregard for the well-being of others. You preyed on women who were looking for love. You exploited their faith, their trust, their hope for a better future. You stole millions of dollars, but more importantly, you stole years of their lives. Years they spent recovering from what you did to them." She straightened the papers in front of her. "For these crimes, I sentence you to 25 years in federal prison. You will not be eligible for parole for a minimum of 15 years. Derek's face went white. 25 years. He would be in his 60s before he had any chance of release. The judge turned to Monique. "Ms. Williams, you were not just an accomplice. You were an active participant in this scheme. You helped target victims manage finances and evade law enforcement. Your culpability is nearly equal to your brother's. I sentence you to 18 years in federal prison." Monique broke down sobbing. Her lawyer tried to comfort her, but she was inconsolable. Derek looked at me as the marshals prepared to take him away. His face was twisted with hatred. "This is not over," he mouthed. I stood up so he could see me clearly. "Yes, it is," I said. The marshals took him away. I never saw him again. The first thing I did after the trial was burn my wedding dress. We gathered at my mother's house on a Saturday afternoon. Me, Mama, Tanya, Patricia, Sharon, and Jalen, who insisted on being there for what he called the fire party. The dress was laid out on a table in the backyard. $2,800 of white lace and crystals and broken dreams. I had not been able to look at it since that night. It had been stuffed in a bag in the back of my closet, a reminder of the worst experience of my life. But now, it was time to let it go. I poured lighter fluid over the fabric. The chemical smell mixed with the faint scent of perfume I had worn on my wedding day. Tanya handed me a box of matches. "Any last words?" she asked. I thought for a moment. This dress was supposed to represent the happiest day of my life. Instead, it became a symbol of betrayal and lies. But I am not going to let it have power over me anymore. I struck the match. This is for Sandra, for LaToya, for Crystal, for every woman who has ever been deceived by someone she trusted. I dropped the match onto the dress. And this is for me, for the woman I was before Derek Williams, and for the woman I became after. The flames caught immediately, spreading across the fabric, consuming the lace and crystals. We watched in silence as the dress burned, as it crumbled into ash and smoke. When it was over, Jalen looked up at me with those big, wise eyes. "Feel better, Mama?" I hugged him tight. "Yes, baby. I feel a lot better." The weeks that followed were about rebuilding, not just my finances, but my sense of self. The FBI had been able to recover about $1.2 million of the stolen money. It was not everything the victims had lost, but it was something. Split 4 ways, each of us received approximately $300,000. For Sandra, it meant she could finally retire. Not the comfortable retirement she had planned, but at least she would not have to work until she died. For LaToya, it meant freedom from the debt that had crushed her for years. She paid off her creditors and started rebuilding her credit. For Crystal, it meant a fresh start in a new city where no one knew her history. And for me, it meant security. Jalen's college fund was safe. My house was safe. My future was safe. But the money was not what mattered most. What mattered was that we had stopped Derek Williams from ever hurting anyone else. The annulment came through a month after the trial. The marriage had never been legal anyway since Derek was already married to 3 other women. But having the official paperwork, the document that said I had never truly been his wife, felt like closure. I took my wedding ring, the 2-carat princess cut that had seemed so beautiful on my finger, and I donated it to a domestic violence shelter. Let something good come from that symbol of lies. Slowly, day by day, I started to feel like myself again. I went back to work. My colleagues welcomed me back with hugs and understanding. My boss, who had heard about the trial, told me to take all the time I needed. But I did not want time. I wanted normalcy. I wanted to lose myself in spreadsheets and balance sheets in the logical world of numbers, where lies could always be uncovered. I started going back to church. Not New Hope Baptist, where Derek had found me. That church held too many memories. Instead, I found a small congregation across town, a place where I could worship without constantly seeing the pew where he used to sit, the altar, where we had exchanged vows. Pastor Whitfield from New Hope called me once. He apologized for not seeing through Derek's deception. He felt responsible for letting a predator into his flock. "Pastor," I said gently, "you are not responsible for the actions of evil men. You opened your church to someone who seemed to need community. He is the one who abused that trust, not you." He thanked me for my grace, but I noticed he started a new program at the church after that. Background checks for anyone who wanted to join certain ministries. Education sessions about romance scams targeting church members. Good. Let something positive come from this mess. My sister circle became even closer in the months after the trial. We started a monthly dinner tradition gathering at one of our homes to cook together, laugh together, and support each other. We also started something bigger. Sharon suggested it first, a support group for victims of romance fraud, a place where women could share their stories, get resources, and find community. We called it Second Chances. The name felt right. We had all been given a second chance after Derek tried to destroy us. Now we wanted to give that same chance to others. The group met every Thursday evening at the community center. At first, it was just us and a few women we had connected with through the trial coverage. But word spread. Within 6 months, we had over 50 members. Women came from all walks of life, young and old, rich and poor, educated and not. Romance fraud did not discriminate. It could happen to anyone. I shared my story at every meeting, not because I enjoyed reliving it, but because I knew how powerful it was for other survivors to hear that they were not alone, that they were not stupid, that they had been targeted by professionals who knew exactly how to manipulate people. "You are not weak," I told them. "You are not naive. You are human beings who wanted love. There is no shame in that. The shame belongs to the people who exploited your hope." Some women cried, some nodded silently, some came up to me afterward to share their own stories, and slowly together we healed. Jalen adjusted better than I expected. Children are resilient, more resilient than we give them credit for. I sat him down one evening about a month after the trial and tried to explain what had happened in terms an 8-year-old could understand. Mr. Darnell was not a good person, I told him. He lied to Mama about who he was. He was trying to take things that did not belong to him. Jalen was quiet for a moment. "Is that why the police took him away?" "Yes, baby. He broke the law, and now he has to go to jail." "For how long?" "A very long time. He will not be able to hurt us, or anyone else." Jalen nodded slowly. "I knew he was bad, Mama. I knew it from the beginning." His smile was fake. I pulled him into my arms. You were right, baby, and from now on, Mama is going to listen when you have feelings like that. You are smarter than I gave you credit for." He hugged me back. "I love you, Mama. I love you too, Jalen, more than anything in this world." We got a dog a few weeks later. A rescue from the shelter, a sweet golden retriever mix who had been abandoned by her previous owners. We named her Justice. It seemed fitting. I am writing this from my back porch on a Sunday afternoon. The summer sun is warm on my face. Justice, our golden retriever, is sleeping at my feet. Jalen is in the backyard practicing his baseball swing, getting ready for Little League tryouts next week. 1 year ago, I was hiding under a bed in a hotel room, listening to the man I had just married plan to destroy my life. Today, I am at peace. It took time to get here. There were dark days, days when the anger felt overwhelming, days when I could not stop replaying that night in my mind. There were nights when I woke up in a cold sweat, dreaming that Derek was in my house, that he had escaped from prison, that he had come back to finish what he started. But those days became less frequent. The nightmares faded. And slowly the woman I used to be started to emerge again. Not the same woman, I would never be the same, but a stronger version, a wiser version. People ask me if I will ever trust again, if I will ever let another man into my life. Honestly, I do not know. What I do know is that I trust myself now. I trust my instincts. I trust the voice inside me that whispered something was wrong even when I did not want to listen. If love comes again, it will have to earn my trust. Slowly, carefully, with complete transparency and no secrets. Any man who wants to be part of my life will have to pass inspection by Tanya, by my mother, by Sharon and Patricia, and most importantly, by Jalen. If his smile seems too big, we are done. But I am not looking. I am not searching. I am not desperate for partnership or companionship. I spent too many years believing I needed someone else to complete me, believing that being single meant being incomplete. I know better now. I am complete on my own. I am whole. I am enough. My career has never been better. 6 months ago, I was promoted to senior manager at my accounting firm. All those years of hard work, all those nights studying for certifications, they finally paid off. My boss told me I was one of the most thorough investigators she had ever seen. She did not know that my skills had been sharpened by investigating the man who had tried to steal my life. My finances are secure. My townhouse is paid off, no mortgage hanging over my head. Jalen's college fund has grown to $60,000, more than enough to give him options when the time comes. My credit score is still at 780, unblemished by Derek's schemes. He never got a dime of my money. Everything I built, everything I saved it, is still mine. Second Chances, our support group, has grown beyond anything we imagined. We now have chapters in 3 cities, with more starting every month. We have helped over 200 women recover from romance fraud, connecting them with lawyers, therapists, and financial advisors. We even got a grant from a foundation that focuses on women's safety. Enough money to hire a part-time coordinator and expand our outreach. Sandra leads the Phoenix chapter. She finally retired not because she had enough money saved, but because she decided life was too short to spend in an office. She volunteers full-time now, channeling her experience into helping others. LaToya runs the Chicago chapter. She met someone new, a good man who treats her with respect and patience. They are taking things slowly, which is exactly right. She sends me pictures sometimes, and in every one she is smiling, really smiling. Crystal moved to Seattle and started fresh. New city, new job, new life. She is in therapy, working through the trauma, learning to trust again. She says she is not ready for relationships yet, and that is okay. Healing takes as long as it takes. The 4 of us, the survivors, we talk every week. Group video calls where we catch up on life-share struggles and victories remind each other how far we have come. We are not just survivors anymore. We are sisters, bonded by something terrible but stronger for having gone through it together. As for Derek and Monique, they are exactly where they belong. Derek is serving his 25 years in a federal penitentiary in Virginia. From what I have heard through legal channels, he is not adjusting well. Turns out the charm and manipulation that worked so well on vulnerable women does not work as well on prison guards and fellow inmates. Monique is in a women's federal prison in Texas, 18 years stretching ahead of her all that time to think about the lives she helped destroy. I do not waste energy thinking about them. They got what they deserved. That chapter is closed. Jalen is thriving. He is 9 years old now, still observant, still wise beyond his years. His grades are excellent. He has friends. He laughs easily and often. Sometimes he asks about that time last year when the bad man tried to hurt us. I answer his questions honestly in age-appropriate ways. I want him to understand that bad things can happen, but that we can overcome them. That being strong does not mean never getting hurt. It means getting back up after you fall. Last week he said something that made me cry. We were eating dinner, just the two of us, and he looked up from his plate with those serious eyes. "Mama," he said, "I am proud of you." I set down my fork. "Why, baby?" "Because when the bad man tried to hurt you, you fought back. You did not give up. And now you help other people fight back too." I reached across the table and took his hand. "I learned that from you," I told him. "You saw the truth when I could not. You trusted your instincts. If you had not told me about his fake smile, I might not have been paying attention on that night. You helped save us, Jalen." He smiled a real smile, the kind that reaches your eyes. "We make a good team, Mama." "Yes, baby, we do. If you are watching this right now, and you are in a situation that does not feel right, if someone in your life seems too good to be true, if your gut is telling you to pay attention, if a child or a friend is warning you about someone, listen, your intuition is trying to save you. That small voice, the one that whispers something is wrong. That voice exists for a reason. It is not paranoia. It is not you being difficult. It is your survival instinct telling you to pay attention. Do not silence it. Do not push it down. Do not let the desire for love override the signals your body is sending you. Document everything. If something feels wrong, start keeping records. Screenshots of texts, notes about conversations, copies of financial documents. You may never need them, and that would be wonderful. But if you do need them, you will be glad you have them. Build your circle. Surround yourself with people who will tell you the truth even when it is hard to hear. Friends who will speak up if they notice red flags. Family members who have your back no matter what. Trust yourself. You are smarter than you think. You are stronger than you know. You are capable of surviving things you cannot even imagine right now. And if the worst happens, if you discover that someone you trusted has betrayed you, know this. It is not your fault. You are not stupid. You are not naive. You are a human being who wanted love, and there is no shame in that. The shame belongs to the people who exploit hope. The shame belongs to the predators who prey on open hearts. The shame belongs to them, not to you. I spent my wedding night hiding under a bed. But that is not how my story ends. My story ends with me sitting on my porch in the sunshine with a dog at my feet and a sun in my backyard. It ends with me being stronger, wiser, more complete than I have ever been. It ends with me choosing myself. Derek Williams thought he was giving me a wedding night I would never forget. He was right about that, but not in the way he intended. He thought he was going to take everything from me. Instead, he gave me something. He gave me the knowledge of my own strength. He gave me a community of survivors who became my family. He gave me the clarity to know exactly what I will and will not accept in my life. He tried to break me. Instead, he made me unbreakable. If you are watching this and you are going through something similar, please know that you can survive this. You can come out the other side. You can rebuild and recover and become stronger than you ever thought possible. It will not be easy. It will be the hardest thing you have ever done. But you can do it. I am living proof. My name is Denise Carter. I am 35 years old. I am a mother, an accountant, a survivor, and a fighter. I spent my wedding night hiding under a bed, and I rose from that floor to become the strongest version of myself. You can too. Thank you for listening to my story. Now go live yours. And remember, always trust your instincts. They might just save your life.